Roy, what's all this then? Sorry, I'll stop. Hey people, Voice talking to you, and today we're checking out Atomfall, a highly anticipated survival FPS RPG set in a fictional disaster zone in northern Britain. If you want to try this game out for yourself or see my full playthrough stream, there are links to both of these down in the description. The wind-scale atomic power plant was the pride of Cornwall until a powerful explosion shook the valley. As a mysterious zone of interference prevented communications and aircraft from getting through, the government began an airtight quarantine of the entire affected area, leaving civilians and soldiers alike trapped inside. We play as an unknown, unnamed character who is mysteriously awakened inside a bunker within the zone. Immediately, we are approached by a scientist bleeding out from an obvious gunshot wound. If you don't immediately punch him in the head, he'll warn us of the dangerous nature of the outlaws and cultists stalking the countryside.
Try to find anyone.
We set out to explore the zone for some clue as to who we might be and why we're here in the first place. Conveniently, a nearby phone booth rings and tells us that something or someone called Oberon must die. Who's Oberon?
Oberon must die.
Okay, but why? That and the name of a place called The Interchange is all we have to go off for quite some time. Now, if you're worried that I might spoil the story here, don't be, because I couldn't even if I wanted to, but more about that later. For now, let's dive into the graphics and the overall gameplay so you have a better idea of what you'll be getting into. Simply put, this game is gorgeous. The sprawling fields of green that make up the quarantine zone are overlooked by a massive cyclone of blues and purples that give the world an ominous atmosphere. Winding caves and hidden bunkers are dimly lit by the glow of irradiated fungi, and the blasted ruins are marked by graffiti from bandits and druids alike. Though perhaps a bit simple, it's hard to deny how pretty the landscape is. Oh, that is pretty. Oh my god. Look at that. I will mention, however, that exploring it for some time can start to become repetitive. Without changes in the time of day or weather, things start to become rather monotonous over time, which makes exploration a bit of a bore. There are some interesting bits of tech like pneumatic tubes and hulking robots scattered throughout the world, and the models for enemies are highly detailed. Even though we get to see a few enemies with interesting features like the ferals, it isn't anything I haven't seen before. We've all seen Fallout, we know what bandits and robots look like. Though some of the feathers and silly hats give them a bit of character, they definitely aren't unique. However, these enemies do have different reactions to our presence. For example, the bloodthirsty, violent raiders will try to reason with us and even let us point guns at them for a few moments before they actually become aggressive, whereas ferals will just viciously attack us.
Nice and slow now. Let's have no trouble. Just be calm. Hands away from weapons.
Yeah, admittedly, I don't think these interactions are exactly what the developers had in mind, and this level of intelligence does not translate to combat tactics or the wherewithal to flee a battle when the rest of their squad has been wiped out or anything like that. I don't know, maybe they're trying to make the player feel like the aggressor or to make the constant rumors of violent outlaws into something questionable, but overall it just felt really out of place for a squad of hardened, armed killers to beg a single dude with a cricket bat to keep his hands away from his weapons. On the other hand, combat encounters are actually really fun. Weapons are snappy and well animated, damage is meaningful, and if you aren't careful, a single feral or a few lucky bullets can land you in an early grave. The mix of ranged and melee combat is well implemented, and management of the player's ammo and heart rate is critical for survival. Instead of the typical stamina meter, Atomfall uses a heart rate meter for the player that increases as they run, jump, and fight. If their heart rate rises too high, the player won't be able to sprint or perform melee attacks. Additionally, your pounding heart will cause your weapon to shiver and sway, disrupting your aim for ranged combat. It's an unusual mechanic that takes some getting used to, but overall it feels great. Melee combat in particular is incredibly satisfying. We can't dodge or block attacks, so throwing in a powerful kick that disrupts an enemy's swing and knocks them back is our best defensive measure. The ability to throw melee weapons and stun enemies with power attack rounds things out. Overall, it feels very much like the vicious, close-quarters brawls from Dead Island, which is absolutely a compliment. The only real downsides to combat are that it doesn't happen enough and that the enemy variety is bare bones. There will frequently be long, tedious stretches where the player doesn't fight anything at all. When we finally do enter combat, it's usually with the same old ferals or the bandits in the funny hats. There is a rudimentary stealth system in place that allows the player to sneak up and take down enemies from behind, but overall, it's very easy to abuse that system, and the bandits and soldiers just aren't intelligent enough to remain a threat once the player learns their ticks. Frankly, the most dangerous enemies in the game are the near-constant swarms of irradiated rats, bats, fish, and birds found in every corner of the world. Smack! Ow, ow! Ow! Freaking fish! Stupid freaking birds! As for the survival elements, they admittedly feel a bit tacked on. In the first hour or so, crafting items is critical for survival, but before long the player will have so many weapons, bullets, bandages, and bombs that the only real reason to learn a recipe is to have access to an item without having to carry it around. Inventory space is severely limited, so players can either enter an area fully prepared, but with zero space for loot, or rely on whatever they find inside, which is honestly a fair bet most of the time. There is tons of loot scattered around the map, and with combat being infrequent and stashes only appearing at the entrances to specific enemy bunkers, you'll probably be leaving a lot of stuff behind before long. Since absolutely nothing stacks, hauling load after load of loot back to a storage point is incredibly tiresome, and the payout of scavenging through the ruins starts to feel pretty pointless when most of the loot is stuff you already have a dozen of in storage and can make even more of if you have the recipe. The one big reason to collect all of this junk is to trade. Certain NPCs will offer a variety of items and recipes for trade, but with the Cataclysm and all, it's all on a barter system. That's fine and dandy, and some traders will even prefer certain goods over others, but remember that our inventory space is extremely restrictive. That means if you want to make a big purchase, you'll need to completely fill your inventory with only trade goods and hope it's enough to tip the scales. This also means that we can't just sell off items we don't need, and since traders will mostly be peddling stuff that we have tons of, it feels like a waste of time to trade for anything other than skill books. Now, if they wanted to keep the barter system, there's a very simple solution that I've seen other games use. Adding trade goods that are universally priced highly allows the player to clear out their bag and take the value of these items with them to another trader. Allowing these to be found in loot would also make scavenging more fun, and big purchases less of a chore. As for those skill books I mentioned, there is a basic skill system that allows the player to spend rare training stimulants to unlock perks. Only a few of these perks are available to us until we purchase and read the skill book associated with that specific set. Although these upgrades are useful, they aren't especially exciting, and they won't be adding any new abilities. Another unfortunate aspect this title inherited from Dead Island is tedium. There are a lot of NPCs scattered around the countryside that have lots to say. These characters are simple and forgettable though, with most of them having roughly the same information about the world at large, making conversations bland and very repetitive. The quests themselves aren't much better, unfortunately. Remember how I said I couldn't spoil the story? I've played the game for quite a few hours at this point, and I still don't have any idea what's going on, or what I'm doing. The loop goes something like this. Go to this place, talk to this person, get this thing from them. They will tell you about the interchange. The interchange, that's that place you're trying to get to. There's a way in, but you can't go that way. Find another lead, rinse and repeat. Even when the weird payphone voice flat out told me what I was supposed to be doing, it was just find all the entrances to the interchange. Collect atomic batteries, you'll need those for something. I mean, I understand that the game is trying to put together a mystery for the player to solve, but after several hours in the game, you've got to give them something to go off. A bit of lore, or at least a reason to pursue the objective. Ultimately, I do disagree with the observation of Atomfall as British Fallout. But it does feel quite a bit like British S.T.A.L.K.E.R. The game's graphics are stunning and its combat system is incredibly satisfying, but its narrative, characters, exploration, and survival systems are all disappointingly bland. This is a title with a lot of potential that can really feel good at times, but ultimately it just never crosses into something great. But then again, I'm just the voice in your head, so what are your thoughts on Atomfall? Do you see any big inspirations from Fallout or S.T.A.L.K.E.R.? How does this title compare to those? Do you feel like I was a bit too critical here, or are you on the same page as me? Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm always happy to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, leaving a like helps me out a ton and means I'm not stuck eating beans on toast. If you want more, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep new content coming your way because I put out new stuff every single week. Thanks so much for listening to me today, and you'll be hearing from me again real soon. Stupid.
Stop your whinging.
Yeah, stop your whinging. Get back up there. Climb the ladder again. See what happens.
Where did you get to?
I see you.
Yeah, I see you too, buddy.
You'll die here.
Will I? I don't know about that.